Hello, hello. Welcome back to B&J's Little Farm. Today we are reading Wings of a Dream, and we are on chapter 17. I'll wait a couple minutes, see if anybody pops in, says hello. It says we got one watching. The cat's trying to play with my mouth. Ooh, says we got two in the house. Hey, Celtic Grandma. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in. Alright, we're going to go ahead and get started.
Ooh.
Alright, chapter 17. Stop it, Dan. I told you not to scratch. Ollie's voice from the kitchen met me as I toted an armload of laundry down the stairs Monday morning. Dan's head showed all the signs of healing, but keeping his grimy hands away from the spot proved difficult. Hey, Dragon. Hey, Brian. Good to see you guys. You can't tell me what to do, Dan yelled back. A shuffle of bodies, a scream. No, let him go. James had apparently joined the fray. If you don't listen to me, God will send you to the bad place with the devil. I charged into the kitchen, dropping the dirty clothes and grabbing Ollie's arm. You are not his mother. James stuck out his tongue at her. I reached out and snagged James with my free hand and marched them both up the stairs, their house filling the house. I sent Ollie into the children's room to put on her school dress while I left James waiting on a freshly made bed. Then I returned to the woeful Dan, coddling him and Janie until their tears melted into smiles. Brian says, I made it, Jess. Thank you for making it. Hey, Jen. Good to see you. Hey, Dr. Oddity. Thanks for coming in. When Ollie finally raced from the house, braids flying, eager, hey, mate, to be off to school, relief and sadness tugged at either side of my heart. Had Mama felt this way when she put me on the train nearly 3 weeks ago? I suspected so. Probably more so, for I wouldn't return later that afternoon to sit at the table, drink a glass of milk, and tell her about my day. I didn't have time to ponder the strange motherly feelings. A full day of chores awaited. I scooped the laundry back into my arms and followed the boys outside. Hey, Vermont, good to see you. Thanks for coming in. When I pulled the envelope from the mailbox that afternoon, Frank's familiar handwriting stared up at me, but it was the address that stopped me cold. Miss Rebecca Hendricks, Prater's Junction, Texas. My mouth dropped open. I turned the envelope over and stared at the flap. Thankful that Ollie hadn't arrived home from school yet, I split the envelope with a hairpin. The paper shook as I drew it out. I leaned against the thick trunk of the half-bare oak tree. I love how Barrett's glitching in and out. It's like the Matrix. Miss Hendricks, I received word of Annabelle Williams passing on to glory and of you staying on with the children. I know they are not your responsibility, but from what I hear, you weren't given much choice. Thank you for your Christian kindness and helping those in need. Tell Ollie Elizabeth I'm depending on her. Keep the boys in line with a switch if you have to. Please let me know how they are doing. It seems so unfair for them to lose both their mother and their Miss Ada without their father to comfort them. Yet I must believe God knows best if it seems a hard thing. What are you doing? I don't know how long you intend to stay, but if it could be until I return home. That would be greatly appreciated. If you need anything at all, ask George and Irene Latham. Sincerely, Frank Gresham. Hey, Gemma, good to see you. She says, hey, Jess, sis, and my favorite Mr. Barrett. Even if the green screen is making Barrett a ghost, at least he's not doing him wrong like TikTok filters trying to change his gender. Brian says, hey, brother Barrett.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Dragon. Hey, who else is there?
Gemma.
Hi, Gemma. Vermont.
Cool looking background. Barrett's ghostly.
Dr. Collector.
Dr. Collector. Dr. Oddity.
Yes,
You're
Dr.
funny.
Collector.
Ooh, Gemma says she'll be sending out your package on Tuesday morning.
Cool.
I blew out a long breath as I read over the words again. To my relief, he seemed to care, both about his children and about my being here. And how could I refuse his request? Arthur had not yet given me assurance that he would marry me before he left for Europe. If I stayed here, perhaps I could at least see him again before he shipped out. And being on my own and in charge was better than going back to my old life in Downingtown. Ollie mean-dreaded into the yard as I finished hanging the clothes on the line. The other children napped upstairs, and I intended to keep it that way. Will you lay those towels and clothes to dry on the hedge brushes for me? I said. She dragged the basket over to the side fence. With careful concentration, she stretched each cloth until it lay fully exposed to the air, if not the sun. I shook out the skirt of my Grunham work dress and pinned it to the clothesline before crossing the yard to help her. My mama used to let me do this. Miss Ada too. Ollie draped and stretched the last kitchen towel on the prickly green leaves. I helped Miss Ada help Mama before she had Jamie. She smoothed the edges of each towel, making them line up with each other. I let the silence linger between us. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, Gemma. I'm sending prayers out to you. She's prepping for her Nana's funeral on Monday. When Miss Ada got sick, she told me I have to grow up real quick. I didn't go to school for a few days. I thought it was fun being in charge. When she turned to me, fear peeked out from behind her serious eyes. A tear slipped down her cheek. You know, it's really distracting. She didn't bother to wipe it away. A fist seemed to close around my heart, wringing from its depths a compassion I didn't know it contained. Oh, baby, I'm so sorry. She threw herself at me, her thin arms circling my waist, her shoulders heavy with sobs. I'm sorry I made Dan mad. I'm sorry I couldn't keep Mama and Miss Ada alive. I held her cheeks in my hands. It's not your fault. Do you hear me, Ollie Elizabeth? It's not your fault your Mama died, or Miss Ada. It was just meant to be. That's all. She buried her head into my body and wept some more. I wanted to join her. Who was I to offer platitudes when my Mama remained in this world, even if Daddy's letter had hinted she had one foot into the next? Help me, Lord. I knelt in front of the girl, wiped the tears from her face, and prayed for the words to say. Death comes to us all, Ollie. Miss Ada knew that. So did your Mama. Your Daddy knows it too. He probably sees it every day, but God is always here watching us, helping us. I know it. How? Can you see God? Staring far off over her shoulder, I pondered how to express what I knew to be true. I thought of Irene, of the light in her eye and spirit, of all the death she'd seen in her congregation. her community. The words rose up from somewhere deep inside of me. I know it because the sun comes up every morning, no matter what, and the rain falls on the crops, and babies are born. I know it because even when death comes, we go on living. The words slashed against my heart like barbed wire tearing flesh. Could I live out my own words if Mama died? Or Arthur? Or Will? Could Ollie endure it if death came for her father too? Both of us, our lives stretching out along as unknown roads, would have to trust the Lord to work out our futures. Until then, I prayed we could find some comfort in each other. Gemma says, Barrett, you keep disappearing. You said trying to focus. Later that week, a short note arrived from Arthur. Talk of peace had him discouraged. He wanted to challenge the German aces in the air, but I hugged the information close, believing that the war might soon end. Frank would come home, and Arthur and I could begin our lives together. Irene missed church on Sunday. Down in her back, I heard from the eldest, Nola Jean, and Sheriff Jeffrey's undivided attention all day rubbed me wrong, like sitting with Barney Graves in the parlor. A nice man, but one who seems to want more from me than I was able to give. The following Monday, the back door burst open. Irene's round face glowed red, as hot as a stove, her breath coming in chugs like a steam engine. A newspaper waved in her hand. It's over! She wheezed out the words as I led her to a chair in the parlor. It's over! Early this morning. Could it be? I grabbed the paper from her hand. The moment I saw the headline of the special edition Junction Sentinel, I let out a holler. The war is over. I danced a small jig before throwing my arms around my new friend. She shook with laughter. Praise Jesus, praise Jesus. Janie grabbed my skirt, a panic look on her little face. I swung her up into the air. It's over, Janie. I brought her down and danced her around the room. The war is over. Our boys are coming home. Dan and James bounded in, yelling over each other, wanting to know what had happened. The war's over. Hey, Christina, good to see you. Camo and Bows, good to see you. Long time. Hope all is well with you. Thanks for coming in. It only took a second for their eyes to light up with understanding. Daddy's coming home. Daddy's coming home. They grabbed hands, continuing their chant and spinning in circles until they had to sit down. Arthur would be through with his commitment, never having to leave American soil, and Frank would begin his journey home, as would my brother. No more rationing, no more casualty lists, no more boys buried in faraway graves. A knock on the door turned all of our heads. Mind if I join in your celebration? Sheriff Jeffries grinned, his hat doing its customary dance in his hands. His hair had been slicked back and smelled of tonic. I held up the newspaper. Why don't we all celebrate together? Come to supper. I'll wring some chicken necks like we did to the Kaiser and his army. Are you sure about that? Irene pushed to her feet, her breathing finally normal again. Positive. I twirled a circle before setting Janie on the floor and skipping off toward the hen house. The sheriff's voice trailed behind me. That girl sure is full of life.
Oh my God, I lost my hair.
Rimton Dim, the friendly ghost. The smell of baking chicken wafered into the corners of the house, adding to the feast feeling. The chicken and the cornbread and squash fed our bodies, by our souls relieved in the news of Armazic. Voices bounced off the corners of the rooms as everyone tried to talk over each other, each wanting to tell us what they had heard. The sheriff sat across the table from me. He did have nice eyes and a not hard to look at face. He'd make some girl a very respectable husband, and he'd be a good father to his children. I sensed that as I watched him bring James and Dan into the excitement and banter. His gaze met mine. I smiled at him, hoping my gratitude showed, but praying he didn't read into the expression more than I intended. My heart belonged to Arthur. By the time the Lanthams and the sheriff took their leave, my back ached, and every dish and pot and pan in the kitchen sat dirty on the table or in the washtub. Irene and her girls had offered to help, but I'd recognized the tired in my friend's eyes, and I wanted to prove to myself, if nothing else, that I could handle the household tasks. I did let the older Latham boys haul in water before they left. The dishes could soak overnight. It wasn't like we had pressing tasks to do in the morning anyway. Just another day of chores, each the same as the last. Only now, in a world suddenly stilled with the peace of why can't I say that word? Armistice? And what this new world held for me, I couldn't wait to discover.
Oh, I wasn't supposed to show up like that. We're supposed to just hands. I thought this was supposed to be a good book to read.
You don't like this book?
Well, why is there a ghost in there?
You're the only ghost in this book. Brian in Vermont's laughing. I'm back. I just called the Ghostbusters on Bear. We are on chapter 18. The thought of peace drove me happily from my bed early the next morning. I forced myself to clean a tub full of dishes and set another batch in the water before I allowed myself even one sip of coffee. Finally, I settled on the porch with my warm mug to enjoy the pleasures of yesterday's newspaper beyond the front page stories. The cool breeze rippled my unbound hair as I scanned the pages. Then a headline leaped from the page. 13. Wednesday, Dallas Day at Love Field. Arrangements completed for caring for a large crowd at Flying Frolic. I bolted up, sloshing hot coffee onto my skirt, and read on. A day of aerial demonstrations, and it's for the public, combined with the celebration of the Arabsmatic. Special streetcars would run to Highland Park and Short Hall, carrying spectators from there to Love Field. Surely the aviators from Camp Dick would all attend, wouldn't they? But it would cost money to take a train to Dallas. There'd also be the conveyance to Love Field, plus the price of admissions and food. I'd have to buy food, or would Arthur treat me to dinner? Plans crowded my head. Clothes, train schedules, someone to care for the children. I ought to telegram Arthur and let him know how to find me. Or should I take my chances and surprise him? Never mind. I had the whole day to figure out things. I gulped down my cooling coffee. I needed to get caught up on all the chores and then bathe and wash my hair. A smile aches my cheeks and my toes. Almost didn't hit the ground on my way inside. If I could have squealed without waking up the children, I would have done that too. But my self-control mattered little. Before I made it to the kitchen for a second cup of coffee, 3 pairs of feet pattered down the stairs. Arranging my adventure would have to await. What are you pointing at?
Someone's at the front door.
Ew, that's creepy. I didn't see anybody.
Me either.
Don't do that. You freaking make my heart jump out of my chest. Okay. In the gray light of dawn, I tiptoed down the stairs, my mouth stretched in a yawn, body and mind rebelling at the early hour. In spite of my excitement, my plans had come together quite well, although there hadn't been time to go to town and send a telegram to Arthur. I just have to trust I could find him at the air show. I'd pray for it. God had shown me that Arthur was his plan for my life, so I felt sure he'd answer. After all, he'd already smoothed the way by making Irene agreeable to keeping the kids for me for the day. Even though her eyes had asked questions I had no desire to answer. I needed her to be my friend, not my mother. She'd given me a wary smile, but a smile nonetheless, and told me to go on and enjoy myself. The trust in her face opened the door to guilt. I doubted she approved of me going to Dallas by myself, but I'd made my decision, and I intended to see it through. As I opened the door to Aunt Annabelle's bedroom, the mirror over the washstand beckoned me. A bottle of French perfume on the washstand caught my attention. Had Frank sent it to his wife before he knew she'd passed? After only a moment's hesitation, I pulled the stopper from the heavy glass, the room filled with the sweetness of 1,000 flowers at once. I dabbed the fragrance on the skin behind my ears as I stared into the mirror. Brown eyes blinked back at me, lighter brown hair just visible beneath my hat. A couple of pinches on each cheek, and they colored nicely. I turned from side to side, returned a verdict of presentation. I clasped my hands beneath my chin, wanting to both laugh and cry. Today I'll see Arthur, but first I had to go to the train station on time. I hurried back into the hall, peeked out the front door. Nola Jean Latham across the yard at that moment, spindly legs and arms shooting out from her too small dress. She spied me and came on a bit faster. Mama sent me. She hopped up on the porch. I'll take the little ones back to my house. Ollie can walk to school with the rest of us. My toes bounced against the porch floor, eager to be off. That sounds fine, Nola Jean. Tell your mother I said thank you. She nodded, plodded into the house, up the stairs, and out of sight. I scurried to the kitchen, wrapped a piece of leftover cornbread in a clean cloth, and tucked it into my handbag. It would do for a bite to eat until I arrived at the Flying Frolic. James and Ollie shuffled into the kitchen. James rubbed his eyes, then blinked up at me from his bench seat at the table as he sniffed the air. You smell like Mama, Becca. His eyes and nose scrunched in confusion as he stared at me. Where are you going? Ollie's head jerked my direction. Dan came to the table, more awake than his brother. Nola Jean got Janie up too. Yes, I know. Remembering James, I told you last night that I had to go to Dallas today. Ollie's eyes narrowed to slits. I forgot, James said, laying his head on the table. Is Nola Jean going to get me breakfast? Yes, she is. The girl walked in that moment, Janie content on her hip. Be good for Nola Jean and Miss Latham now. James's bottom lip started to tremble. Dan nodded and stuck his thumb in his mouth. I laid a hand on each boy's cheek. James leaned into my hand. When are you coming back? My throat tightened. Janie stretched her arms to me. I avoided her reach, kissed her head, and started for the front door. Janie screamed and wiggled until Nola Jean let her down. Still wailing, she crawled after me, red-faced without tears. She gulped air, screaming, then breathing, screaming again. Ollie followed Janie onto the porch. I hurried towards the gate. Part of me wanted to run back and sweep the sweet baby into my arms, to hold on tight, but the greater part of me wanted to go, now. I glanced up the road. Then I looked back at Ollie and Janie and James and Dan, who now stood on the porch as well, their expressions of bewilderment jabbing me already tortured soul. If I could take care of them, anybody could, I told myself. Nola Jean would do just fine. I forced myself forward. Janie shrieked again. I closed my eyes and ran.
Babe,
What?
not to, cut you short for a second, but can you raise up? Your bony butt's killing my leg.
Don't make me laugh again. Okay.
Oh, let me get. No, I got very. Oh. Now, okay. That's good. That's better. Thank you.
Jen says, good evening, B.
I said hi.
I need a drink of water before I read again. Are you okay?
Not really.
Is that better?
No, go back to that soda. Yeah, right there.
That's where you
No. All right.
Is that better?
That's a lot better.
Okay. I hope bony butt was a compliment.
It was.
Okay. As the train pulled away from the station, my heart twisted in my chest like a wet skirt beneath my hands. How could I have left Janie in such a state? I covered my eyes. James' face, full of longing and fear, haunted that darkness. But this little trip was for the best. The children didn't need to become any more attached to me. They needed to be ready to welcome whoever would care for them when I left. Irene, or Mrs. Crenshaw, or maybe even Frank's new wife. It wouldn't be unusual for him to take one right away. My head leaned against the window as a yawn stretched my lips. The gentle sway of the train rocked my aching eyelids closed. I dreamt Arthur and I sat together in his airplane high above. All I know. The world looked different from there. Small, insignificant, and it bothered me that it felt that way. When a commotion woke me, I felt dissatisfied, as if my dream trip wasn't exactly what I had hoped it to be. Yet, it was exactly the adventure I longed to take. The train emptied mostly at Union Station in Dallas. A huge building, several train lines coming and going. People whizzed past, hardly a face that didn't carry a broad smile and a quick laugh. The war was over, and today Dallas would celebrate. Swept up in the festive crowd, I forgot all about the farm, the children, and their father. I even forgot Daddy's words about Mama recovering or lack of it. Finding Arthur filled my thoughts about how to get to the frolic. Out of the corner of my eye, I spied a man in uniform. I'd given up on Mama's instructions not to talk to strange men, so I walked right up to the soldier, bold as you please. Excuse me, would you know where I could catch the convey to Love Field for the flying frolic? His eyes raked over me, from my feet to my head. I took a step back, pulling my coat more tightly around my body. I'm on my way there too, pretty lady. Perhaps we could go together? My heart pumped faster and I swallowed hard. I don't know, sir. He reached for my hand and laid it in the crock of his arm. Captain Denton, miss. Let me escort you there. Wouldn't do to have you wandering the streets of Dallas alone, now would it? His toothy grin didn't ease my concern, but I allowed him to lead me to a ticket counter anyway. Oh, I thought the trains weren't running out there. Don't we need a streetcar? Captain Denton shook his head. They got a special train ready to go to Love Field for today. 43 cents for the round trip. I looked at the man behind the counter. He nodded in agreement. Well then, that sounds just fine. And it did. Much more familiar and safe. I handed my money to the ticket agent. Money I felt sure Frank had sent home for his family, but I couldn't worry about that now. Besides, it wasn't as if I'd spent the entire $5. The ticket clerk directed us to a booth where I could also purchase my admission ticket to the air show. 50 cents more. I bit my lip and prayed the remainder would be enough to get the children and me through until Frank came home. Captain Denton led me to the platform. Hundreds of others waited with us, or so it seemed. When the train whistle sounded, the crowd swarmed ahead, everyone wanting to be the first abroad. Captain Denton held my arm, guiding me through the throne, securing a seat for me by the window and one on the aisle for himself. He whistled low. This is something, isn't it? I never imagined so many people would be coming out to watch the show. A nervous smile played on my lips. No, I never imagined. He leaned back in his seat and crossed one leg over the other. Are you from Dallas, miss? My fingers gripped my handbag. Hendricks. And no, I'm not from Dallas. I'm from Oklahoma. But I'm staying nearby. My tongue slid across my dry lips. I came out to find my beau. He's stationed at Camp Dick. I clamped my lips shut, wondering if I'd given the man too much information. I know most everyone at that camp. Who is this beau of yours? I clicked the clasp on my handbag as I studied Captain Denton's face. His blonde hair and brown eyes appeared warm and inviting now, more friendly. Arthur Sampson, from Taylor. His eyebrows arched. What? I laid my hand on his arm. What do you know? Please tell me, I beg you. His face rearranged, all smiles now. He patted my head. Don't you worry. I'm sure he'll be thrilled to see you. I leaned against the back of the seat in relief. Arthur would be glad to see me. Of course he would. That's why I'd come. Thank you, Brian. He says, make sure to hit the thumbs up. Thank you for the heart, Vermont. Chapter 19. We'll do 3 chapters today, and then after this one...
How many chapters you got on?
I think there's like 40... I don't know. 45 chapters.
What's going to be the next book?
I don't know. We're a ways away from that right now.
Okay.
The other book I wanted to read was Shiloh Dawn, but it got burned up. So.
Did it?
Mm-hmm. That book I laughed through almost the whole way, and you kept asking me what I was laughing at.
Well, once you get to Adventure of George.
You go get The Adventure of George, and I'll read it.
Okay.
Who's it by?
George.
You're funny. Hey, Photos Against Anxiety. Thanks for coming in. Alright, chapter 19. I had thought Union Station crowded, but the air-filled team thicker with humanity.
Next book, War and Peace.
Oh, wow.
That's a big book.
Yeah, that's a huge book, Dragon.
That's a long book.
Captain Denton ushered me inside the gates. I unbuttoned my coat, fearful I'd faint before I found Arthur. Between the crush of people and the rising sun, I welcomed the refreshing November breeze close to my skin. We picked our way through the crowd, my head turning left and right as I gripped my handbag more tightly. So many uniforms, so many faces. What if I couldn't find Arthur? Don't worry. I'll find him for you, Captain Denton's voice carried over the din. I've never seen so many people in one place in my life. I stood on my tippy toes trying to get a better look. Captain Denton chuckled as he led me to the bleachers. You sit here and enjoy the show, and I'll find your Mr. Sampson. He found me a seat before striding off in the opposite direction. It didn't take long for me to remove the coat completely and lay it across my lap. My skin tingled with anticipation. Arthur would be with me soon. I'd see his face, hear his voice. Of course, we wouldn't be able to embrace, not in public, but our eyes would hold each other, and when he spoke, his words would wrap around me as securely as if they were in his arms. Airplanes thundered overhead, drowning out my daydreams. A man in front of me leaned towards his wife. Jenny's. They're called Jenny's. I raised my eyes to the sky. oohing and awing with the rest of the crowd as the aviators piloted their plane through loops and rolls, sometimes flying upside down, other times heading in a straight line for the earth before suddenly lifting back up into the air. My hand covered my throbbing heart. Never had I imagined the aerial feats I'd watched that morning. Did Arthur do such things? What are you laughing about? The Little Princess? That's a good
Little
one.
Prince.
Oh, The Little Prince.
And dragon said, instead of War and Peace.
No. I bet you'd have a blast trying to listen to me pronounce the words in that. The acrobatics continued for a while longer. My stomach rumbled as the show drew to a close, and my worries crept back in. What if Captain Denton couldn't find Arthur? And what if he never come back to find me? I craned my neck for sight of a familiar face. Of course, there were only two possibilities, Captain Denton and Arthur, and I didn't see either one. The stands around me began to empty, talk of the buffet dinner on everyone's lips. I sat nearly alone now, chewing a fingernail. Then a hand raised in the distance. I stood, eager to see the face. The crowd parted. Sheriff Jeffries' broad grin met my gaze. I sat back down on the wooden seat. What would he think of me for leaving the children and traveling on my own to Dallas? My head turned this way and that, seeking escape. Then he stood before me, and I had no choice but to acknowledge him. Imagine meeting you here. I tapped my foot on the plank beneath my feet. Great, isn't it? He lifted his face to the sky until his neck stretched long. Amazing what those boys can do. As I nodded, two men in uniform closed the distance behind him. Two familiar men. My heart seemed to stand still. Arthur! His uniform accredited his leanness. Had he lost weight since he had arrived here? Had he been ill and not told me? I searched his face for any signs of weariness, but he looked as hale and hearty as always. I popped up from my seat, my coat and purse filling my hands, my feet stumbling out of the stands until I stood on solid ground. He stopped just beyond my reach. I wanted to throw myself into his arms, but in spite of all of my bold actions of the day, I couldn't quite forget myself to that extent. Rebecca! Arthur's eyes didn't light on mine. His gaze darted to the ground, the sky behind me, refusing to land on anything for more than an instant. I stepped forward. Arthur, darling? Sheriff Jeffries' mouth hung open, and of course, his hat twirled around and around and around in his fingers. Arthur glanced at Captain Denton. Ah, I guess we'd better be going now. Captain Denton turned to the sheriff. Let me show you the electric lights that will come on after dark. Captain Denton dragged the sheriff away, but not before Sheriff Jeffries gave Arthur a long, hard look. Then we were alone, or almost alone. A few others still mingled about the grandstands. He moved closer. What are you doing here? His hushed voice sounded accusatory. Those weren't the words he was supposed to say. He rolled his eyes and looked away. Grabbing my arm, he led me behind the bleachers, away from the strangers. Darling, I put my hand up to caress his cheek. I was worried. He pulled back as if I had slapped him. Look, he swept back the lock of straw-colored hair that tipped over his forehead. I don't know how to tell you, so I'll just say it straight. He took a deep breath and finally looked me in the eye. I'm engaged. My lips curled. I know. To me. Then I realized he wasn't talking about me. We weren't actually engaged. Not yet. My chest refused to draw air. His hand shook as he lit a cigarette and placed it between his lips. I stared at the bright red tip, the smoke dissipating around us. The eyes that had spoken volumes avoided me now. Lily's a nurse. She was around a lot during the quarantine. He puffed a few more times, then tossed down a cigarette and ground it into the dirt beneath his feet. I'm sorry, Rebecca. I never meant to hurt you. I thought you'd forget about me. Forget I devoured air, filling my chest to spew the anger that rolled there like storm clouds in the spring. How could I forget these days in Downingtown? How could I forget your promises and the letters you wrote me? Forget you told my mother you intended to come back for me. You promised. His expression never wavered, almost as if he didn't remember the conversations I'd recited to myself 100 times or more. I took a step back, rage rolling like thunder inside me. You, I didn't know any words terrible enough to call him. Humiliation stole all over me, burning my face. He didn't want me. Perhaps he never had. All my hopes for the future lay buried in an instant. You alright?
Mm-hmm.
What does that look for?
I'm sitting on that bottle.
Oh. Oh, I lost my place. My legs threatened not to hold me upright a moment longer. Everything okay, Sheriff Jeffries? Again. I bit the inside of my cheek, refusing to let my tears flow as I fumbled to don my coat. The sheriff reached around and held it for me. I looked at a spot in the sky above and to the right of the sheriff's head. If you would direct me to the train, Sheriff Jeffries, I'd like to return to Union Station. I assumed he nodded, for he began to walk. I followed him to the gate where I'd entered with Captain Denton, Arthur tagging along behind. We stood together on the platform, the three of us, Arthur, guilt clear on his boyish face. It felt like hours before a train screeched to a stop and emptied of its passengers. I climbed into the rail car, jerking my elbow away from Arthur's helping hand. The sheriff led me to a seat, but my eyes remained forward as the train gained speed. Just a short ride, and I'll be back at Union Station. From there, I could return to Prater's Junction. But what I really wanted was home. I wanted Mama to hold me while I cried out my story. But I couldn't go home, and Mama is still recovering, couldn't come to me either. In spite of feeling so grown up these past few weeks, I suddenly wanted to be a child again. Yet, I knew that it would be impossible. I said I would care for Frank and Clara Gresham's children. Frank was counting on me to keep my word. Rebecca? The sheriff's voice, kind but unwanted. I pressed my lips together, determined not to cry. Not here. Not yet. For I feared that once I started, I'd never stop. We waited 3 hours for the train that would carry us back to Prater's Junction. Don't you want something to eat? Sheriff Jeffries asked. One glance into his face and I had to look away. Too much pity there. I shook my head. He sighed. Before his shoes clomped across the floor to find food for himself, he returned and sat next to me. Please, Sheriff, go on back to the frolic. I looked in his direction, but not at him. I can get back by myself. He wiped a handkerchief across his mouth. I've had enough for the day. I'll see you back home. I don't mind. I opened my mouth to protest again, for Prater's Junction was not my home. Would never be my home. But what was the use? So we sat in silence as I reviewed the details of my romance with Arthur over and over again. What had I done wrong? When had I misunderstood his intentions? Nothing in my life had prepared me for the pain of this loss. Yes, Aunt Annabelle's death had been sudden and shocking, but still, she'd been ill. Besides, it wasn't like I hadn't known anyone who had died before. I remembered Amy Jones from my first years of school. We played together at recess. Her sleek black braids mesmerized me, as did her dancing black eyes and her laugh that sounded like bits of glass raining down on each other. Amy's been swept away in the creek when she went to fetch water. She was 9 years old. And then there was John, more Will's friend than mine, kicked in the head by an old mule, and of course the boys killed in the war. Death didn't surprise me. It didn't surprise anyone I knew. But I couldn't comprehend this betrayal. All the men in my life kept their word. Arthur had said he loved me. Hadn't he? My mind pictured each of the letters in my possession. Well, at least he'd asked me to wait for him. And he signed his letter with all my love. Or had that been my closing line? Hey Tom, good to see you. Thanks for coming in, I appreciate it. This is just a green screen. But thank you. Let's see. Anguish rose from my toes, through my legs, my stomach, my chest like rain water, filling the christen a few drops at a time. Soon the grief would choke me, and I'd have to let it out. But not yet. Not yet. The day had drawn to a close when the train let us off at Prater's Junction. Sheriff Jeffries touched me gently on the arm. Let me drive you home, Rebecca. I forced myself to look at him in the eyes. I so appreciate your friendship today. I really do. But I need to walk. I need some time alone. He nodded with a frown, but stepped outside. I swept past him into the dusty haze of the twilight. It reminded me of the first evening I'd walked into what I thought was my aunt's house. The night I couldn't have anticipated the tragedy that waited me. Now I had no care if dangers lurked in the shadows. What did it matter if anything happened to me? Arthur was out of reach, flown away to a future where I had no place. He'd done more than kill my dreams of romance and adventure. He had stranded me here in a life I had no desire to lead. Tears stole down my cheeks. I didn't give in to them. The excess simply overflowed without restraint. I hooked my handbag around my arm and watched the shadow of it swing at the moon's play hide and seek among the clouds. Nearly $2 of Frank's money meant for his family, gone, spent on a fool's errand. I figured Daddy would send money if I had asked, but how would I explain what I have done? And what about Mama? How would she take the news about Arthur? Of course, in her mind, Barney Graves still waited like those extra ingredients in case the first cake fell flat. I pulled my coat around me, the day's warmth having left the light. The road turned. I looked up, expecting a dark and gloomy house. Instead, light glowed through the parlor window. My stomach clutched. I didn't want to see anyone now. Maybe I could sleep in the barn, avoid any conversation until morning. As if in answer, a swift breeze rolled out of the north and reminded me that the calendar said November. In spite of my coat, sleeping outside the house wouldn't be a pleasant experience. Alright, thanks so much for dropping in. My feet carried me through the gate, up the walk and the porch steps, and around the back. The heels of my shoes echoed on the planks, but no one met me at the kitchen door. I set my handbag on the table before following the trail of light to the parlor. My steps slowed. I picked up an umbrella from the brass holder in the hall and held it in front of me, its point my protection. Whoever resided within must have heard my shoes rattling the floor, maybe even my heart beating against my chest. I rounded the corner and stepped into the brightness. Ollie lay on the sofa, wrapped in a quilt, her big eyes blinking back at me. I lowered the umbrella. "What are you doing up? Where's Noelle Jean?" Fear and longing, leaving my words harsh and condemning. She sat up. Noelle Jean wanted to go home after she milked old Bob. She said, after she milked old Bob, said she said she hated walking alone in the dark. I couldn't get that out for the life of me. What had the girl been thinking, leaving 4 little children alone like that? I had some words for her tomorrow. Ollie scooted off the sofa, but didn't move toward me. I told her you'd be home soon. Besides, Janie cried most of all the day. No wonder Noah Jean wanted to leave. I didn't blame her. I wanted to melt into a puddle on the floor myself. Already I felt more tears spilling over onto my cheeks. I avoided Ollie's gaze, straightened the lace dully on the small table beside the sofa. I'm home now, honey. Get on to bed. She hesitated, seeming to need something more from me, but I had nothing left to give. I needed time to think, time and quiet, and I imagined I wouldn't get much of either come daybreak. I snuffed the lamp and followed her upstairs. My teeth chattered as I slithered into my flannel gown and huddled beneath the quilts. But even as my body grew warm, I wondered if the children had enough to cover them. Sometimes Dan kicked off his blankets as he slept. My bare feet hit the chilly floor. I sucked in a sharp breath before hurrying into the next bedroom. Sure enough, Dan's leg hung off the bed, out of reach of any scrap of fabric, as if his feet needed a head start to hit the floor when he woke. Sounds like me. I pushed him closer to his brother. He turned on his side. His leg disappeared under the covers. I tucked the quilt beneath the mattress. Pushing back the mass of blonde hair on his head, I could see the place where I'd clip it short around his wound. I needed to check that in the morning, make sure his scalp was healing as it should, and perhaps I should cut the rest of his hair to match. I'd been here almost a month. Both boys needed a trim. My feet tingled on their way to numb. I tiptoed back to bed and climbed in. None of my early warmth remained. I stretched the quilts over my head and crunched my knees to my chest, just as well. Cold fit my feeling. It reminded me that I had no hope of someone to warm my heart or my bed. Aw, she's heartbroken, babe. So sad. She didn't get her Arthur. Hey, Marshmallow Man, good to see you. That was the end of story time, actually. So next Saturday we will be in chapter 20. I can't wait for you guys to find out what happens next. It's gonna be so good.
Oh, that's the way. Just leave my head on the table, Jess, and walk away. Oh, there. Oh, no, no.
You're part of the show now. What did you guys think of this? These 3 chapters. I did 3 chapters this time. Barrett said 2 chapters was too short of a time. What do you think? Would you rather do the 2 chapters or 3 chapters? And tell me what you thought of tonight's reading.
Well, I said 3 chapters, but you can actually go 4.
I did 3 chapters tonight. You think 4 chapters?
They're not very long chapters. I think you can get through a chapter, what, 3 minutes?
I don't know. How long have we been live?
Jen says yes, 3.
Okay.
Brian said he enjoyed it, Jess.
Thank you, Brian.
Brian just like that ghost head of mine sitting on the table.
That's funny. Thank you, Brian.
So like Grandma says, it was really good. 3 chapters.
Okay. Ooh, Jen says she thinks B should read every other one.
I can't see. There's 2 small.
Barrett can't see to read. He needs one of them big old magnifying glasses.
That's where I went blind because I read all the time.
Yeah.
In bad lighting.
So were you expecting I have questions. Were you expecting Rebecca and Butthead to be together? Or were you expecting some foul play to go on?
Who's Butthead?
Her beau, who she was supposed to marry.
And what was his name?
I can't think. Arthur.
Arthur.
Weren't you listening and paying
Yes.
attention? Well, what'd you think?
Who's Captain Mario?
There was no Captain Mario. Denton.
Denton.
So who did you think? What did you think of it?
It was good.
Did you think she was going to get with Arthur when she got to the air show? Did you think they were going to get together?
No.
Or did you have doubts?
I had doubts.
Why?
Why? Because you don't get to meet up with each other at an air show.
Why
Because
not?
the guy's going to be looking at the air show.
Oh my goodness. That was your clue that they weren't going to be together? I was hoping she'd be with Arthur too, Jen. Dragon said kind of figured Arthur wasn't going to be for her. I'm figuring on her getting with the sheriff.
Not wrong. Wait till a couple more chapters.
How would you know?
Wrong. Couple more chapters and she's going to be with somebody else.
Shit, Barrett's never read this book, so he has no idea. He's in the dark as well.
I'm just reading between the lines.
And what's in between the lines?
You have to read between the lines?
She's
Why
not going to get with the sheriff?
Uh-uh.
Are you sure?
Well, we'll find out in a couple chapters.
Alright. What do you guys think? I like happy endings. I like happy endings too, but it's not over. We got quite a few chapters to go.
I'm up on that book I read where the king and queen hired Brian the rooster to track down Dragon the Lonely Heart. I'm up on that book.
You're delusional. I really enjoy this book though. I like
I like that first book you read though.
the Shiloh.
Yeah,
I know.
that was a good one.
Barrett didn't read that whole book either, but that book, I believe it was also based in Oklahoma. And, man, it was a hard one to read too because they're talking Southern or something. I don't know what they're talking, but there's some really hard words in that one as well. And just the way they talk. It's a totally different way that they talk. I laughed almost the whole first and middle part of that book. I was just rolling and laughing. Barrett comes, what are you laughing about? I'm like, this book, it's hilarious. And so there's a couple of times he'd be like, read it to me. So I'd read him some stuff that I was some of the chapters that I was reading. He was like, yeah, that's good. But he never listened to it or read the whole book. So, but it was a really good one. It's a thick one. It's a pretty good size one. If I could find it again, we will. That was my plan. After this one, we would read that one. But that was one of the ones that got lost in the fire. It's actually halfway burnt. I looked at it yesterday.
Really?
Yeah. It's so sad. But they're talking in that book, in the beginning of the book, they're like children. And basically they're given the lineage of the family and the history of the family and stuff like that and who's who. And they're telling the story as if they were kids. They start off as kids and they're like hunting coons and they got coon dogs and stuff and it's just funny. They're hunting opossums there was an opossum too. Oh, is she going to be the town bicycle? First the sheriff, then with Frank, the kid's father, then with the doc, then. I don't know, Dragon. I don't think so. There wasn't too many girls that were like that back then. I got the munchies. But I love how, like, there's just, like, little bits and pieces of her life, too, about the laundry and doing the chores and the dishes and stuff like they did back then. Milking old Bob. Hey, Twin Brooks, good to see you. How have you been? Celtic Girl says, no town bicycle, Dragon. Laugh out loud. So, here in Ohio, it's been really gross. We haven't really been up to much. We've been taking it easy, which is good because I really need that right now. But it's been raining.
Well, I did get the water running.
Dreary. Yeah, Barrett got some stuff accomplished. I mean, we're still doing, little chores and stuff, but we're not doing any huge projects like we do normally day to day. I watered the plants in the greenhouse. I'll have to give you guys an update on the greenhouse. I never uploaded the short of the cows last night. I need to do that. Remind me to do that. But things in the greenhouse are growing. We've got surprises in the greenhouse that I've been meaning to upload for you guys, and I haven't yet. And like I said, I spent time brushing out the cows and the dogs and feeding the animals. And cooking and doing dishes is, it's fine. I've gotten used to it, but it does take some time. So it takes up probably like half my day to get water and do dishes and stuff. But Barrett was a champ today. He was able to get some running water. The spring is, because it's been raining, we can't use the water to drink right now. It's really dirty. It's like, this is probably the dirtiest I've ever seen it.
It's all the mud and stuff running off the hill.
Yeah. So we did fill up a couple buckets and it was like super muddy. But
no, Dragon's got a green screen. It took me a day and a half to fix this up. Jess is going to go back and play the piano.
I'll play you Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
I'll go back and play. I had to lug that piano up on my back, all by myself.
Dragon says, when's your next dumpster diving date, Jess? I'm not sure.
It was supposed to be today.
Yeah, we were going to do it today. I personally, like I said, I'm going through some stuff. I'm trying to take these supplements that are giving me reactions and stuff. And I don't want to go to town. I don't want to be in public. I just want to be in my little bubble right now. It's been kind of difficult getting on my lives and doing the normal stuff that I'm used to doing. I'm just stuck in a place right now where I need peace and, I don't know, peace and calmness.
Then we sat there for an hour. Jess said, raise this arm up.
Oh yeah, I'm doing, so, getting really back into all my natural stuff, you guys. I want to do a video on this, and I will do a video sooner or later, but for like 2 years I got super comfortable. I don't know, been about a year and a half. Got super comfortable, quit doing all my healthy stuff, my supplements, my nutrition stuff, and I'm getting big time back into that because I'm a mess. One of my subscribers and friends, I can't ever say that word. So when you try to put good stuff into your body and you have a reaction, Herx condition. So I'm going through a Herx condition right now because I haven't been taking my vitamins and supplements or anything like that. Now I'm having Herx reaction to literally everything, anything good for me. So that's what I'm fighting through right now. So I've been doing the muscle test on Barrett all day today. He's annoyed with me. He's over it. And if you don't know what a muscle test is, it's just a training technique. It's a training technique where you put something in your hand. It doesn't have to be a supplement. It doesn't have to be a vitamin. It could be food. It could be a drink. And you do a muscle test and you see if your body reacts to it. And your body will tell you whether you need that or you don't need it. You ready to do an example?
Dragon, it was easy. Meet thunder.
Meet thunder.
Meet lightning.
You're so... Oh my gosh. I can't even with you tonight. Let me take this green screen off so you can see Barrett better. There you go. Thank you, Brian. That's funny. How did you get a front door put on the 5th floor after lugging the piano at 5
This
floors.
is more like meat powder, meat puff.
Alright. Brian says hilarious. So yeah, like the symptoms I'm having, I'm being like very anxious. Very, very anxious. But not only that, I don't know. I've got rashes on me. I've got sweating, profusely sweating. Barrett's hating the sweating. He can't stand it. But yeah, just crazy stuff going on with me right now. So, let's see.
Something simple.
I'll show you this. So this is my homemade magnesium spray that I make. And basically what you do is you hold something in your hand, whatever you want to test, if it's good for your body. And then you hold your arm up and you make it straight and strong. And you try to put resistance in there. So he's going to try not to move his arm. And then you just push down. And if he can't move his arm, that means
if can't move my arm.
If I can't move his arm, then that means his body needs this, or his body likes it. Now, Bear's going to be mad at this one.
Uh-oh.
His potato chips that he likes to eat daily. Do it again.
Don't pick on my potato chips.
Put your arm up.
Why do you have to pick on potato chips?
Because we know.
Oh my goodness.
We'll see if they're good
You're
or bad.
discriminating.
You ready? You see how low his arm goes? And then we also here, let's do your pills. These are his Coumadin pills. They are not good for his body because
they got rat poison in them.
Oh no, Coumadin is rat poisoning. So anyways, we've been testing stuff all day. Having a blast doing that. What? Jess, there is a Nutriville test. It tells you exactly what you need for nutrients, but is expensive. I am getting it done next month. Yeah. That would be awesome if I could afford that, but I can't do that right now. I can't swing that. It was the chips or Tabassi. Tater chips, the best nutrition. So yeah, we basically really haven't been doing much with all the rain and everything.
They already did that, Dragon.
Honestly, Dragon, that's hilarious you said that, because I'm doing all these tests on him, and he's like, okay, come here. He's like, let me put you in my hand. So he grabs a hold of me, and I press down on his arm, and his arm is strong. I'm like, what the heck? But yeah, we did do that. Wasn't my idea.
Yeah, it was.
No, it wasn't.
You gotta see the big grin on her face.
You're rotten. So, do you want to add anything?
No.
Anything new projects coming up you want to tell them about, or?
Nothing's coming up until it gets warm and I get rid of this cold.
Yeah, Barrett's still sick. He actually, his throat is raw, and he's been so sick that he decided to take a spoonful of Manuka honey today, which Barrett is not really into the natural stuff.
Actually, my throat's not sore.
That's good. He's not normally into the natural stuff. And that's another thing. I need to do an update on Hercules and his pink eye and what happened with the Manuka honey.
Me too, Brian. I got things to do outside.
Yeah, but you've even still, like, even though you're sick, you haven't been, like, laying in bed or anything. You've been up doing stuff with me.
Yeah.
He had to run up to the little country store tonight and get some water because the spring water's dirty, like I said. I don't really care to drink store-bought water.
You know.
But we gotta do it. I had no idea it was going to rain this many days in a row, and the forecast is calling for like 10 days in a row. So we got like 2 weeks to go before we get. Hopefully they're lying, because most of the time the Weather Channel.
Alexa, what's the weather like tomorrow?
Here's the forecast for tomorrow in Newark. Look for lots of clouds, with a high of 37 degrees Fahrenheit and a low of 25
So it's not raining, it's cold.
Yeah. So now it's going to be 25 degrees is the low tomorrow. And I've been wanting to get my peas out and my ground crops. I need to get
I
that
never
stuff
thought about
out.
that. That could make sense. What Dragon just said.
Jess, could be something with the house since you haven't had these issues till you guys moved in there. Maybe something in the dust. It might be Dragon.
Because this house hadn't been used for what? 20 years?
13.
13 years?
Yeah, I can't wait until spring. I was thinking that too, Dragon. I don't know. It could have to do with that. It could have to do with the smoke in the trailer. All those chemicals and stuff. I don't know.
With this being an old house, I wonder how much lead's in this stuff.
But they debunked that. They debunked the fact that lead was bad for you. Like, obviously, if you ingest it.
But with this house was built in 1900.
Yeah.
And they had lead paint and all that stuff put on this.
I know, but they debunked the fact that lead was bad for you. Lead paint was bad. Yeah. Like, if you eat it, obviously it's going to be bad for you. But for you to, like, have lead paint is actually not bad. The only reason the government said lead paint was bad is because it was, oh, help me out, Dragon. I think Dragon knows. Or Jen. Lead paint repels, like, radioactive stuff.
Alexa, is there aliens?
Oh my gosh, where did that come from?
Currently, humans have no evidence that alien life exists. Personally, I think the things flying in your air are pretty odd.
What the heck? Oh, that's where you got it from, Marshmallow Man.
Alexa, is lead bad for you?
I don't know that.
Yeah, of course you don't.
Alexa, is lead bad for you?
I'm not sure.
Yes, Dragon, might be mold spores. Maybe. I haven't seen any mold anywhere, though. There's no
leaks or anything.
There's no moisture or leaks or anything that I've found. Well, it is kind of damp sometimes, but there's no, like, wet spots or anything. I think the moisture just comes from all the pine trees being around the house, but it's not like there's moisture sitting on the floor or anything like that. Thank you, Dragon. See, I can't even think properly right now. Dragon says, yes, lead protects from radiation when outside your body. It's not good to ingest or breathe in. Ooh, Jen says mold can come up through the crawl space.
You got a boulder foundation in the house?
What does that mean?
They're sandstones for foundation.
Yeah, all the foundation here under this house is sandstone. That's why the foundation is crap. this is the last of my spring water for the night. Or until... Why is your leg shaking so bad? Am I pinching your nerve?
No.
It's like a nerve is going... Brian says maybe a reaction from something. And then Dragon says you have a lot of things you can test for, like radon. We got 10 in the chat. Awesome. We got 16 thumbs up right now.
So, I guess we got a lot of work to do.
We always got a lot of work to do.
We'll be working for the next couple years.
You think? I think it'll take longer than 2 years.
Nah. It just depends how fast we work at it.
True.
But that's the problem too, Narayan. Putting in the garden, doing the rest of the cow's fence,
Canning. Harvest.
planting, whatever, butchering, working here and there. What else we gotta do?
I don't know. We gotta build a new chicken coop.
Mowing grass. Got 2 more chicken coops we gotta build. Cause somebody decided to buy more chickens.
You're not supposed to be ruining surprises.
No.
There's also the issue of alien visitations. Barrett's cousins visiting y'all.
They are aliens.
That's not true. You got some... What?
My cousins are aliens.
No, they're not. Don't talk bad about your cousins. I like your cousins.
What? You like my cousins?
Yeah.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, no wonder they talk to you all the time.
Everybody likes me. Just joking, not everybody. Brian says we had thunderstorms here today. Ugh. Alright, Twin Brooks, thanks so much for hanging out and stopping by. It was really good to see you again.
Should ask Alexa about Area
3
51.
days.
Alexa, what's the story on Area 51?
From Insider.com. It is commonly thought that top-secret aircraft and weapons technologies have been developed and tested in Area 51 since the facility was established by the Central Intelligence Agency, CIA, in 1955.
You know, you were...
Did you hear that?
Yeah, Alexa's going to turn you in for asking government questions.
Oh, I didn't ask anything about the G-Mint.
Area 51's good enough.
I didn't ask nothing about G-Mint.
She records everything you say. Oh, so you'll get a kick out of this one, Dragon. Barrett was talking last night about, or no, it was earlier today, wasn't it? He said we need to get this back wall done so it doesn't look so, what did you say?
Gloomy
And
like
a dungeon. He says it looks horrible on my live, so he wants to get it done first. And he was like, or instead of putting drywall up and fixing it, we could hang some chains and stuff from it so it looks like a dungeon. Like, no.
Put a suit of armor back in her.
Are you trying to make it a castle?
We can put the rack back here.
A stretching rack?
Stretching rack. Whips and chains.
You're crazy.
Huh?
No, you trying to make me have nightmares?
No. What colors are you doing for the walls?
Have no idea, Brian. What do you want to do? I was thinking when we have a little bit of money saved up, we could do the peel and stick wallpaper.
No.
On like one wall, do like an accent wall. I don't know. I'm not very good at decorating and stuff like that. But I was thinking about doing something like that to save us some work.
You know what popped in my head yesterday?
What?
You know how you put siding up? Siding goes this way, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got that extra siding. I was thinking about putting it this way.
Inside the house?
Yeah, inside the house in that wall.
No.
Huh?
No.
Well, it'd be waterproof.
No.
Rainproof. It's got the material on the inside where it insulates stuff.
No.
Huh?
No. I don't like that idea at all.
I said it just popped in my head. Could cut down some of that bamboo and just...
Try him. What are you going to do with the bamboo?
make a wall.
Alexa, give me some decoration ideas.
Sorry, I don't know that one.
Alexa, give me some interior decoration ideas. Nope.
For a stylish and coordinated look,
What?
mix and match vintage furniture with modern pieces. Add personal touches like family photos, artwork, or plants to give the room meaning. Use soft lighting, such as candles or lamps, to create a warm and inviting atmosphere. Incorporate bold colors or unique wallpaper for a standout feature wall. Overall, it's important to choose items that reflect your personality and create a space that you love spending time in.
It says choose your favorite colors, black and maroon, turquoise. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it shows my personality. That's what she just said.
It's going to be bright colors. Something.
Yellow? Canary yellow?
I don't care, but as long as it's bright. It's not that tan, brown, whatever you put over in the house trailer. It was always gloomy.
Try it.
Well, we can just do polka dots.
No, why would we put no. Alright, Jen, stay happy, healthy, and safe. I'll talk to you later. Thanks so much for hanging out, you guys. Enjoy your evening.
Alright, guys, a little quest for you. You guys look up some kind of idea, paint the walls, ceilings, and stuff, and we'll do a poll or something. Just send Jess a picture of it. What do you think?
I don't know. Nate put beaded vinyl soffit on our ceilings. Catch y'all later. That's what Jen said.
I'll have to look it up. Beat vinyl soffit.
Brian says it's buffering on his end. YouTube's been acting up for me too. And I haven't even been on YouTube that much, just on my lives, and it's been acting up. It's crazy.
Alexa, is YouTube an alien?
Oh my goodness.
Searching YouTube.
What's with you and aliens?
It's that movie I watched last night.
What did you watch last night?
I can't think of it.
Was I asleep?
Yeah.
Jess doesn't let me decorate anything anymore. No, because everything you decorate is with horror, scary stuff.
And you just got back and we was just talking about making a whips and chains and a stretch rack and what else?
You're a freak. Just saying.
No, I would just say sand all this plaster down. It's cheaper than just wallpaper.
I don't know.
Huh?
I don't know. Wallpaper's expensive nowadays.
Is it?
It ain't cheap like it was when.
I mean, I can drywall this whole wall and stuff, but
It's gonna be a lot of drywall.
it's not that. You gotta buy the mud and all that stuff. Then you gotta buy paint to paint it.
Right. So we could drywall just the walls that you want to drywall. Do 2 walls of drywall, and then the other do the peel and
Wallpaper.
stick wallpaper. But if we did that, then that messes up your plan with running the electric.
No, it won't. I can still
Okay.
do that.
Alright. That's ridiculous, Dragon. Just got notified you're on, Jess. Babe, in that corner in the top right there, what's it say in the red? How long I've been on?
It says an hour 25:47.
So an hour and 25 minutes later, he gets a notification that I'm live. Brian says he didn't get a notification earlier either.
You need to get a hold of YouTube and tell them about it and everything. Say, this is ridiculous. You're making money off me and everything. My people's not getting notifications.
They won't do nothing about it, and there ain't nobody you can
Tax
do.
them. Say,
Tax
if you guys,
them?
yeah, they tax you and everything. Government and everything else tax you if you're late on your payment and everything. Why can't you tax them for not notifying you or sending you a bill or something?
Dragon says put up medical sheeting, then paint it black and white so you can do vertical chest. That would be awesome. Hey Firefly, good to see you.
Firefly, she does that. She makes things for costumes and all that stuff. Why don't
I know.
you get her advice?
Firefly just needs to come here and help me.
That too. Somebody here?
Nope. Firefly's good at decorating and being creative and stuff. It's pouring there and she's writing thank yous.
She said if she gets canned at work, she'll be here.
There.
Got a camper you sleep in?
Show her Fuzzbutt. She was asking about Fuzzbutt last night.
Come here, Buzzbutt. Ugh. Look, Buzzbutt. You're wanted on TV.
Your mama wants your Fuzzbutt.
Your mama wants you to smile. Say, Mama, come and get me. Say hi.
She says what decorations. We're trying to figure out how to decorate the house.
The rooms.
The paint and all that stuff. We were talking about that stick and peel wallpaper and drywall and paint and all that stuff. Well, I don't want you to get canned from work, Firefly. Well, Jess, you can always do a jungle theme, then beg Barrett to add jaguars and emus to the animal.
Dragon, stop. You're putting ideas in her head.
Are you driving home tonight, Firefly? Are you going to wait till last minute, like you always do? Tomorrow, yep. Well, I'm glad you're going tomorrow. Don't make it too late. She is. Last minute. Girl. The last time she did this, she left so late, and she literally left her dad's and went straight to work.
Really?
Yeah. All right, Dragon, thanks so much for coming in. 16 inches of snow.
See you later,
coming.
Dragon.
Firefly says 16 inches of snow coming her way. You better keep it up there away from me.
Really?
I don't want any more. Alright, you guys, I think we're going to head off too. I want to thank everybody for coming in and listening to my book reading. Sorry I was so tongue twisted tonight. But I hope you enjoyed it and you enjoyed the story. And until next time, remember, you're not alone. You are loved. And make sure you stay happy, healthy, and safe. Yeah, we ate, Firefly. We had kale smoothie, frog juice. And we had steak. And I made some keto biscuits. I ate a little bit of that. So we did eat.
Oh, we tried that.
We tried the Vegemite on the biscuits tonight.
Wasn't that bad.
Yeah. As long as you don't slather it on.
And I took some Manuka honey.
Yeah. Barrett took his Manuka honey. Help his sore throat. Alright, you guys. You have a good night. And I will see you on Monday Night Reset. Bye.
Bye.